She uploaded close-up photos of her face, showing the decay, the discoloration, the evidence of larvae moving beneath her skin. Her caption was simple but powerful. She explained that she had no idea what was causing her condition, that doctors could not help her, and that she was reaching out to see if anyone else had experienced something similar. She mentioned that the problems had started not long after she had gotten her makeup done at a studio in Ikeja, though she did not initially name Ada's shop specifically. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, dozens of women commented on her post, sharing that they were experiencing identical symptoms. The comment section became a confessional, a place where women who had suffered in isolated shame suddenly realized they were part of a larger pattern. They began comparing notes, looking for common factors, and the connection quickly became clear. Every single woman who reported these symptoms had gotten their makeup done at Kayoma's glam studio. Some had been there once, others multiple times, but all of them had sat in Ada's chair and had her products applied to their faces. The social media storm that followed was devastating. Within 24 hours, Ada's shop went from being the most sought-after makeup studio in Lagos to being the subject of a scandal that dominated conversations across the city. Women began sharing their stories on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Hashtags like #Kayoma's Glam Studio Exposed and #Toxic Makeup began trending. Local news outlets picked up the story, running segments about the mysterious skin condition affecting dozens of women. The photos were horrifying, before and after comparisons that showed vibrant, beautiful women transformed into victims of what looked like some flesh-eating disease. Ada watched her world collapse in real time. The bookings stopped instantly. Her phone, which had been constantly ringing with appointment requests, fell silent. Her Instagram page, which had been filled with compliments and praise, became a battlefield of angry comments and accusations. Women who had once called her a genius now called her a monster. Those who had tagged her in grateful posts deleted them or replaced them with warnings to stay away from her shop. In a panic, Ada tried to deny everything. She posted statements claiming that she had no idea what was causing these women's problems, suggesting that they might have used contaminated products at home, or that they might have pre-existing skin conditions. She claimed that her products were imported from Europe, that everything was safe and tested. But her denials only made things worse, making her appear callous and dishonest in the face of overwhelming evidence. The authorities soon became involved. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, announced that they would be investigating Kayoma's glam studio. Health inspectors arrived at her shop with a warrant to seize her products for testing. Kayoma felt a cold terror wash over her as she watched them bag up her foundations, powders, and brushes, knowing that any laboratory analysis would reveal the horrifying truth about what she had been applying to women's faces. She tried to run. Late one night, Ada packed a bag and prepared to flee Lagos, planning to disappear into another state or perhaps leave Nigeria entirely. But the scandal had grown too large, her face too recognizable. When she arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, airport security recognized her from the news and detained her for questioning. The laboratory results came back within a week, and they were far worse than even the most sensational rumors had suggested. The analysis revealed that Ada's foundation and powder contained extremely high levels of fecal coliform bacteria, including E. coli, as well as parasites in various stages of development. The products also contained traces of the mysterious potion that Baba Augun had provided, a mixture that toxicologists identified as containing dangerous compounds that had temporarily masked the biological activity in the feces while also creating an environment that encouraged parasitic growth beneath the skin's surface. The medical community finally understood what had happened. The women who had used Ada's services had essentially had human waste applied directly to their faces. The potion had prevented them from smelling or immediately recognizing what was happening, allowing the contamination to penetrate their pores. Once absorbed, the bacteria and parasitic eggs had begun to colonize the skin tissue, creating infections that caused the decay and the emergence of larvae. The condition was unlike anything dermatologists had encountered before because it combined bacterial infection with parasitic infestation, all derived from a source that no medical professional would have thought to test for. The arrest came swiftly. Police officers appeared at Ada's apartment in Lekki and took her into custody. She was charged with multiple counts of aggravated assault, endangering public health, fraud, and running an unsanitary business. The prosecutor described her actions as acts of mass poisoning, noting that over 70 women had come forward with documented cases of the facial decay, and there were likely many more who had not yet reported their symptoms. In her cell, awaiting trial, Ada finally broke down completely. She confessed everything to her lawyer, who listened in stunned horror as she described her visits to Barber Augun, the ritual she had performed each morning, the desperate desire for success that had led her to cross an unthinkable line. Her lawyer, a seasoned professional who had heard many shocking confessions over the years, later admitted that Ada's story had left him unable to sleep for several nights. The trial became a media sensation. News crews from across Nigeria and even international outlets covered the proceedings. The courtroom was packed every day with journalists, victims seeking justice, and curious onlookers who wanted to witness the downfall of the woman who had become known as the evil makeup artist. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including the laboratory reports, testimonies from dozens of victims, and eventually, Ada's own confession. The victims' testimonies were heartbreaking. Women took the stand one after another, many wearing headscarves or masks to hide their disfigured faces, and described how their lives had been destroyed. Amaka testified that she had lost her job as a customer service representative because her appearance frightened clients. A young woman named Blessing shared that her wedding had been called off after her fiancé's family saw her deteriorating face and convinced him that she was cursed. A successful businesswoman named Funmi explained that she had become a recluse, too ashamed to leave her house, watching her once thriving catering business collapse as her face rotted away. The medical experts who testified explained that the damage to these women's faces was likely permanent. While aggressive treatment with antibiotics and antiparasitics could kill the bacteria and parasites, the tissue damage that had already occurred could not be fully reversed. Most of the victims would require extensive plastic surgery and skin grafts, procedures that would cost millions of naira and take years to complete. Some damage, particularly the deep scarring and loss of tissue in severe cases, might never be completely repaired. The defense attempted to argue that Ada had been deceived by Barber Augun, that she had not known the full consequences of the ritual, and that she herself was a victim of manipulation. But this argument fell flat in the face of the evidence. Ada had known she was using human feces on her clients' faces. She had known this was dangerous and disgusting, yet she had done it anyway, morning after morning, client after client, for months. The pursuit of fame and fortune did not excuse such calculated cruelty. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Justice Okonkwo, delivered a verdict that shocked no one. Ada was found guilty on all counts. During sentencing, Justice Okonkwo spoke about the profound betrayal Ada had committed. She noted that makeup artists were trusted with something precious, with women's self-esteem and their desire to feel beautiful. Ada had weaponized that trust, turning what should have been a service of care into an act of violation. Justice Okonkwo sentenced Ada to 25 years in prison, the maximum allowed under the charges, with no possibility of parole for at least 15 years. But the story did not end there. NAFDAC launched a full investigation into Barber Augun, tracking him down through Ada's testimony and witness accounts. When authorities raided his compound near Badagry, they found evidence of numerous similar rituals performed for desperate clients across various professions. Barber Augun was arrested and charged with multiple crimes related to endangering public health and practicing medicine without a license. His compound was demolished, and the courts eventually sentenced him to 30 years in prison. The victims, meanwhile, formed a support group they called Beautiful Again, dedicated to helping each other cope with both the physical and emotional scars from their experience. They pooled resources to help members afford medical treatments. They advocated for better regulation of the beauty industry in Nigeria, pushing for mandatory licensing requirements and regular health inspections of makeup studios. Their advocacy led to new laws requiring makeup artists to register with health authorities and to use only approved products from verified sources. Ngozi, the successful makeup artist whose thriving business had once inspired Ada's jealousy, became an unexpected ally to the victims. She offered free makeup services to help survivors cover their scars as they healed, using proper techniques and products. She also became a vocal advocate for ethical practices in the beauty industry, speaking at conferences and training sessions about the importance of integrity and proper hygiene. As for Ada, prison became a place of profound reflection. Cut off from the world she had tried so desperately to conquer, she had nothing to do but confront what she had done. The other inmates, when they learned about her crimes, treated her with disgust. Even in a place filled with people who had committed serious offenses, what Ada had done was considered uniquely vile. She spent her days in isolation, both imposed by prison officials for her safety and self-chosen out of shame. In her cell, Ada wrote letters to her victims, though few would ever read them and none would respond. In those letters, she tried to explain her desperation, though she knew no explanation could justify her actions. She wrote about the pressure of failure, about watching her dreams crumble, about the terrible moment when she had chosen success over humanity. She acknowledged that she deserved every day of her sentence and more, that no punishment could truly balance the suffering she had caused. The story of Ada's glam studio became a cautionary tale that spread far beyond Lagos, beyond Nigeria. Beauty bloggers across Africa and around the world discussed it, warning their followers about the dangers of unregulated beauty services. Medical journals published case studies about the unique parasitic infection pattern that had emerged from the scandal. Psychology professors used the case in ethics classes to explore how desperation and ambition can corrupt moral judgment. Years later, some of the victims had managed to rebuild their lives. Through surgeries, treatments, and sheer determination, a few had recovered much of their appearance, though they would carry scars both visible and invisible forever. Others continued to struggle, their faces permanently marked by the consequences of trusting the wrong person at the wrong time. But all of them shared a hard-won wisdom about the price of vanity, about the importance of knowing exactly what is being put on one's body, and about the need to question things that seem too good to be true. The empty shop that had once been Kyoma's glam studio stood as a physical reminder of the scandal. For months, no one would rent the space, as if the walls themselves were contaminated by what had occurred there. Eventually, a new business moved in, a legitimate salon run by a licensed cosmetologist who made transparency and safety her highest priorities. But even years later, older residents of the neighborhood would point to that location and tell newcomers the story of the makeup artist who had been so desperate for success that she had poisoned dozens of women with her own waste, all in pursuit of fame and fortune that ultimately cost her everything. And in prison, Ada would sometimes wake from nightmares in which the faces of her victims surrounded her, their skin rotting, their eyes accusing, asking the question she could never adequately answer: how could you do this to us? How could you smile while you poisoned us? In those dark moments, she understood that her 15 or 25-year sentence was nothing compared to the lifetime sentences she had imposed on the women who had trusted her with their faces, their self-esteem, and their dreams of beauty.